What's up guys, Brad here from Piney Grove, and a year ago we put out a video about brush cutter attachments for your string trimmer, and we actually showed using this one. But this is called the Renegade Hybrid Blade, and this is my favorite blade to put on a string trimmer and make it a brush cutter. This thing is carbide tipped and never needs sharpening, and it served me well. I probably got 2 years worth of use on here in many hours. Now the blade I used before that was actually a steel blade, and this one is thin just like the one I just showed you, but this one has almost like chainsaw teeth on the blade, but it's real thin and you sharpen this just like a chainsaw. Well, the blade that I showed last year that was still in the package, and here it is still in the package, is called the Forester blade. And what we want to do today is take this Forester blade, put it on the string trimmer, and you'll see how big it is compared to this Renegade Hybrid, you know, probably 1 inch in diameter bigger. You'll see this actually has chainsaw teeth riveted on it, as opposed to this, which just has teeth that are carbide and you use it until it gets dull. This one you can sharpen. Now this Forester blade says 9-inch saw chain grass blade, but yet it has chainsaw teeth on it. So what we're going to do is swap out this Renegade blade with this Forester blade, and then go over here along the driveway and trim some of these oak trees and see how this blade performs in wood as opposed to grass. We'll show some footage of how we use this Renegade blade, and like I said, this is my favorite, but we feel that we owe this Forester blade a chance. We are not sponsored by anyone. We bought all these blades. We bought them from Amazon. We'll leave the links down below, but we just wanted to see how this Forester blade compares to this Renegade Hybrid. Okay, let's swap out these blades. We're going to use the steel scrunch, and if you don't know what that is, that's a screwdriver and a wrench that you get with your steel products. You can put this blade on any string trimmer. We just happen to have steel. The way you change a steel string trimmer head, it has a little hole here. Just stick a screwdriver in there, and what that will do is you'll find where there's a little land that falls in, and that will hold the blade still. And these are reverse threads here, so you would tighten normally going that way. Well, that's the way you will loosen. So you'll loosen that, pick up that jam nut right there. This is just kind of like a blade protector. You got to get this from steel when you switch from a string trimmer head. Then you have this washer, and then you take that off, and that is your Razor Hybrid. Like I said, that's the one that I like the most. And then if this will fit on that land, which it does, and if it doesn't, they give you a washer, but this fits on the steel land. All right, one thing you want to make sure of is that this is rotating in the proper direction. And I know that my steel weed eater goes in a counterclockwise direction, so I just want to make sure this blade is in that same counterclockwise direction, which would be this way. And we'll put the washer on, and hold it tight. Cup on there, and then we will put the nut on, and now we're turning it to the left to tighten it. Put my screwdriver in from the bottom and tighten that down. It's all on there. That was pretty quick. All right, let's go test it out. All right, we got the blade put on here, and this is the steel combi system where you can change the shafts that are on here. So I have one shaft dedicated for a brush cutter, and I've also taken the guards off. So I just want to caution you, if you're not comfortable, leave that on. But I find that the guard gets bound up in vines and stuff like that. So my first impression is that is a big blade. It's much bigger than the Razor Hybrid, and it feels like it's heavier. So we're going to start with this brush here at the base of the tree, work our way through that, and then we're going to start limbing some of these trees around the driveway and just kind of see how it cuts compared to that Razor blade. Now the technique is going to be different because that's more like a chainsaw. I'm probably going to have to ease into the brush, whereas with the Renegade, I would use more of a hatchet type of motion. Let's see if my 20-year-old weed eater will start. It's never let me down. Almost first pull. It's struggling to turn that. It took a while for it to get the RPMs up. But that's sharp and brand new, and it sliced right through that like butter, just like that Hybrid blade did. Now these aren't carbide tipped, so I got to make sure I keep it out of the dirt. All right, so we're going to attack this limb right here, a solid 1.5 if not 2-inch limb. That was pretty fast. Look at that thing, just keeps spinning because it's so heavy and it's got so much centrifugal force. It just keeps spinning well past the hybrid blade does. But there we go, it stopped, we can put it down. We're gonna do some more cutting, but this right here, however diameter that is, it sliced right through that. Now one thing I'm worried about is I don't want to hit the trunk of the tree and damage the tree. I'm worried about it's going to pull it through the wood like a chainsaw would. I will say now that it's sharp and brand new, it's slicing through just as good as that hybrid blade does. It definitely takes a while to spin up. There's a lot of weight out there and it takes a while for it to get going, but once it gets going, this string trimmer doesn't really have a problem turning that head. And this is a FS55. It's an older model. They still make the FS55. I don't think they make it in the combi system. But so far, I find that's a very good blade. You saw what it did with the brush here real quick. The downside that I see is that I'm scared of getting those chainsaw teeth in the dirt and dulling them. But while it's sharp, I think it's going to make quick work of these trees we have to trim today. Let's try this big cedar limb. It just grabbed and went. It just really catches that wood, but I undercut it. I should be able to come from the top and knock it right down. All right, what I'll say about that is when it hits that wood, it pulls itself in. You lose a lot of control with this blade because there's so much momentum out there. Once it grabs the wood and starts to spin that way, it just kind of pulls the strimmer towards wherever it's trying to pull. And that's how big that cut it off. But like I said, when I came in from the undercut, it grabbed it, and on the same thing on the top, on the finishing cut. All right guys, let's wrap this up with some final thoughts. First of all, that is a very effective brush cutter. The teeth on there, those chainsaw teeth, you saw how quickly they went through not only the oak, which is a tough hardwood, but also cedar, which I don't know on a hardness scale if it's harder than oak, but it seems like it is. And it went through a pretty big limb over there. Now I found that on the smaller limbs, I could definitely do that hacking motion rather than putting it up gently against the limb and letting it chew through it. The Renegade Hybrid is a lot lighter blade. I felt that blade at the end. We already talked about how long it takes for it to spool up to get to the full RPM. And it really needs to be at that full RPM so that when it hits the branch, it cuts it rather than maybe just hitting it and digging in and stopping the string trimmer. That's not a very powerful string trimmer. It's on the borderline between a homeowner and a commercial one. So all in all, very positive review of the Forester blade, but I will say that it makes you very cautious. You don't want to damage your tree, so you're coming in and you're very careful of your angles because you feel like you can't control the follow through because of that momentum. So that would be a negative against it. Number two would be on ground type of stuff, and that's where I use this brush cutter a lot. I'm swinging through trying to get the brush cut as low as possible. I don't want that thing to hit the dirt because I know then I'm going to have to sharpen it, and that's a lot of chainsaw teeth to sharpen, whereas the Renegade Hybrid blade is carbide and doesn't need sharpening. I would look at this if you have overhead limbs to cut. I wouldn't look at it for grass or brush. But that's going to do it for today's video. We sure appreciate you watching. Put a couple links up here to some other brush cutting and also some brush hogging videos. But until the next one, y'all take care out there, and remember, life's short, tractor hard.